Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going on a bit of a journey. We're going to trace a path straight from the everyday macroscopic things you can actually touch and feel, all the way down to the microscopic cellular bonds that literally make human life possible. It's a look at the physics of healing. We're talking about the fascinating intersection where basic physics and energy transfer dictate human rehabilitation. Okay, let's dive into this. What does melting wax have to do with your nervous system? Now, I know, at first glance, that sounds completely random, right? On one hand, you've got this physical substance changing form in a clinic, and on the other, you have the wildly complex biological wiring inside your own body. But as we unpack the science of rehabilitation medicine today, you'll see these two things are actually deeply connected by the universal laws of physics and energy transfer.
Section 1. The visible world. States and phase changes. So we're all pretty familiar with the basic progression from solids to liquids and then to gases as thermal energy goes up. Ice to water to steam. But here's the thing, this isn't just basic high school science. This progression is the foundational biophysics that actually makes rehabilitation medicine work. The physical properties of these states, and specifically how they interact with human tissue, dictate exactly how a clinician approaches the healing process.
Now, what's truly fascinating here is this concept of latent heat. Whenever a substance undergoes a change of state, like melting, freezing, vaporizing, or condensing, there is a massive amount of energy being transferred. But here is the crazy catch. It's completely invisible. Latent heat is the thermal energy required to change the state of a substance without actually changing its overall temperature. It's a hidden energy transfer. And believe it or not, this exact invisible mechanism is the secret driving force behind some major physical therapy treatments. When you look at the clinical applications of these phase changes, the translation is incredibly direct. Take the melting process, for example. That's harnessed in paraffin wax therapy. As the hot wax melts and then solidifies on your skin, it's transferring that hidden latent heat straight into stiff joints. Or vaporization. The energy required to turn liquid into vapor is captured in steam baths to provide this deep, encompassing heat. And then there's freezing. That's the exact mechanism behind cryotherapy, where the rapid extraction of heat energy aggressively brings down inflammation. So, physical therapists aren't just slapping hot and cold packs on you. They are actively weaponizing the powerful physics of phase changes to trigger healing in your tissues.
Section 2. The invisible energy. Exploring plasma.
So, what is plasma? Well, it's essentially a gas supercharged with so much energy that its atoms actually lose their electrons, becoming a highly energized, ionized gas. It's known as the fourth state of matter. Now, usually when we think of plasma, our minds go straight to stars in the night sky, or maybe, a glowing neon sign. It feels incredibly distant from human biology. So it's kind of wild to think about bringing a state of matter associated with the cosmos right into your neighborhood physical therapy clinic.
And yet, plasma is absolutely vital in clinical settings. This fourth state of matter is actually found inside high-frequency machines, specifically in what are called diathermy tubes. These tubes use a contained, ionized gas to generate high-frequency electromagnetic currents. When a therapist powers up a diathermy machine, they are quite literally utilizing a contained plasma state to safely beam deep, penetrating heat right into a patient's muscles and joints. Literally, the visible physics of the universe being directed straight into the human body to promote healing. How cool is that?
Section 3. The atomic level. Covalent bonds.
Now let's zoom way in. At its core, a covalent bond is simply the sharing of electrons between atoms. In the world of physics and chemistry, atoms are notoriously needy, okay? They are constantly looking for stability. And one of the best ways they achieve that stability is by teaming up and sharing their outer electrons. But this isn't just some abstract concept happening in a chemistry lab. This atomic sharing is the very glue holding the biological structures of your own body together. And this brilliantly illustrates the point when you think about water, which is the absolute foundation of our tissue fluids. You have two hydrogen atoms sharing their electrons with one oxygen atom. This incredibly strong covalent bond creates the water molecules that make up the vast majority of our bodies. Without this specific type of atomic sharing, the foundational environment of our biology, the literal liquid that our cells swim around in, it simply wouldn't exist.
Section 4. The body electric, physiology, and ions.
Now, to truly understand physiotherapy at a cellular level, we really have to contrast two different structural forces. First, we have covalent bonding, that sharing of electrons we just talked about. These build stable, permanent structures. But then we have ionic bonding, This happens when atoms don't want to share nicely, and instead they completely steal or transfer electrons, which creates positively and negatively charged ions. In our tissue fluids, these charged ions form electrolytes. So a good way to think about it is if covalent bonds act as the architectural bricks building the house, ionic bonds act as the electrical wiring running right through it.
When you break down the physiological relevance here, the stakes of this physics become mind-blowing. Those stable covalent bonds are the heavy lifters. They build our proteins and form our DNA. They are the structural foundation of our existence. But it's the ion formation, the creation of electrolytes, that makes us dynamic. It's what enables nerve conduction. Without these electrolytes conducting electric currents through our tissues, we would essentially just be static puddles. Seriously. Every time a therapist uses electrical stimulation on a muscle, or frankly, every time your brain just simply tells your arm to move, it relies entirely on this microscopic interaction of charged ions zipping around in your tissue fluids. We are, in a very real sense, highly complex walking bags of electrified salt water.
So, how is the invisible sharing and shifting of electrons keeping your heart beating and your muscles moving right now? We started off by talking about melting wax and high-frequency heating tubes in a clinic, but the reality is the physics of healing is happening inside of you every single second. The phase changes, the latent heat, the plasma, the sharing of electrons, and the shifting of ions, it is all working together in a brilliant, non-stop symphony of biophysics to keep you alive, moving, and capable of healing. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.